I will hit this banner here.
Oh,
The first team. Nice little touch there. I'm glad this app lets you kind of throw in there.
absolutely.
Yeah. We can talk about this app a little bit too, a little bit more after we're done. I feel like it's a pretty good resource if you want to get the audio and you also want to upload to Twitter or YouTube or something, have the video format like this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I like it. I feel like this more and more things are going that way, not just the audio, but get something for YouTube, something for the videos just play well. So no, it's very cool.
Exactly. All right, man, you're good to go. Let's do this. Quit this app. Out of here. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody. This is the BCB podcast. You're listening to Aaron Washington on the mic. I'm so glad to be back with you guys this evening as the bubble action is ramping up here. We're into the playoff action now. So we just finished up an exciting game earlier with Nuggets and Jazz. Ty, I'm not sure if you were able to catch that action, but it was absolutely phenomenal just seeing Murray and Mitchell just kind of go back and forth in that duel. So I'm guessing that's going to be a precursor to things to come in this playoff run. It's been about 400 plus days here since we've had playoff action. So I'm just super excited to be back in the mix. But joining me here this evening on the pod, somebody that I got linked up with just a few weeks ago, but definitely knows his ball. So, I mean, I feel like I've known this guy forever already. But Ty, let me just make sure I got your last name right. How do you pronounce your last name here on the pod, just so I can make sure I got that right for everybody?
It's just an easy Windish, 2 syllables. It looks more complicated than it is, I think.
Yeah. Perfect. Ty Windish on the pod here, guys. I'm host of the Gyro Step podcast. Everything Milwaukee Bucks. If you want to know what's going on with Milwaukee, Giannis, their title run, definitely the guy you need to hit up on this one. But Ty, glad to have you here this evening, man. Glad to finally be able to link up with you, talk some playoff ball, talk the bubble teams. What have been your first impressions? I know we've only had 2 games. We're in the middle of the third right now, but initial impressions of the playoff action here. I know it's been a long time since we kind of had it in action here. What are you thinking so far?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just been so long. I think my first reaction is like, thank goodness we're back here. It's like, oh my goodness, I miss this atmosphere, this level of play. I think it's tremendous. We started off, I didn't get to watch most of it live, but I was kind of following along with the Utah-Denver game. And I just feel like in the bubble in general, like even in the seeding games, we've had some amazing games, like some all-timers, down to the wire, overtime or not. And for that to carry over, I was just like so excited to see it. I think Donovan Mitchell having this career scoring night and them still losing does not bode well for them, but they're down 2 key players. I think people are kind of forgetting that when they talk about the Jazz right now. They're down some really important guys, but I think the level of play is higher than I thought. I think it's just, there's a lot going on, a lot of serious issues. It's, some might say it's not the best to have the escapism, but I certainly enjoy watching the games again. I know that much.
Me too. And the NBA has done a great job. I talked a little bit on my last pod about the entire fan experience, having the virtual fans there, the camera angles, even the fake crowd noise at times is a pleasant addition. Has been great so far. But the subject of our discussion tonight is these bubble teams, and I'm glad the NBA added this in just to allow some guys to get some recognition. Because some of these guys have gone home. They're not in the playoff action, so it's good that they're going to get a shout out here. In the following the regular season action, the seeding games. So we're going to start with the first team here, Ty, and go through some of these names here. We have on the first team these 5 names, very deserving, all of them balled out in the 8 games leading up to the playoffs. So the first name on this list I want to save for later. That's going to be our MVP, Damian Lillard. Absolutely phenomenal stretch, carrying that team straight into the playoff action. We're definitely going to get to him. Don't worry about that, guys. We're going to give him all the praise and glory he is due here. But the second name on this list is what I want to start with here. Devin Booker, my God, man, he has earned this opportunity. Just so many years of watching Phoenix just flounder and have coaching changes and internal turmoil and all this other stuff. And just seeing that team go 8-0 just kind of brings a certain level of joy in my heart, just seeing the progress they made over the years. And you can really see something building there in Phoenix that everybody's worked so hard to develop and foster. So for Devin Booker, it goes beyond just the numbers a little bit, just seeing everything that these people have done to make this possible. So for Devin Booker, I think it's an obvious addition. The game winner against the Clippers, phenomenal scoring performances. almost got them into the playoffs, which is amazing. I think if you had asked anybody before this, all the previews, they probably had them at like what, 5-10% chance, maybe.
Like, don't even bring them. That was the sentiment, right? Don't even bring them. Why are the Suns even here? This is why they were here. This specific reason.
Exactly. So for Devin Booker, man, what did you see from him in that 8-game sample that just kind of really announced to the world, like, Booker is here to stay. He is a superstar in the making, and the Suns are so just blessed and just have an amazing opportunity to have someone on the team like that. What makes him so deserving of a recognition on this team?
I think the number one thing is people said he wasn't a winning player, right? Because they weren't winning, and despite him playing well and racking up numbers, that was always the thing. Is he a winning player? That was the question. Well, it helps if you have real players around you. I think that's it sounds obvious, but I think I just think we, like the collective we, not you and I. I think you and I are pretty good at it, but the collective we ignore a lot of context. I mean, they were so bad around him. They blew so many draft picks, and now it seems like they've hit on a couple. They have some really good players in these last 2 drafts. I mean, he's no Luca Doncic, but DeAndre Ayton can play, and they lost him for a lot of the regular season with a suspension. The Bridges they have, Mikal Bridges, is really good. They say Mikal Jail is what the Suns people say when he's guarding someone now. I love that. It is fitting. It is fitting. They're just I think I'm really glad that they got this moment of recognition, even though they didn't make the playoffs. And they were bummed. I totally get it. I would be bummed too. They literally could not have played any better here, but they also played very, very bad before the bubble. So it is what it is. But I'm glad they got this recognition, and people are noting and respecting Booker and their team a little bit. It's going to be hard for them to make the playoffs next year. I mean, the West is going to be totally loaded.
Loaded, man. Where do you start?
Just literally, you can, besides Minnesota, you can pick any team and say and build their case for 50 wins. Yeah, they're gonna have to play some defense, but
for sure.
I think Booker though was just phenomenal. A leader, a great leader, a clutch shot maker. Like you said, beat the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George playing and on the court and really trying to win. That's a big moment. That's a big statement game. So he impressed me. Their whole team impressed me. Monty Williams impressed me. Just really good stuff for them. I had been saying, if they were the ones who made the playoffs or the play-in and not the Blazers, I might give this guy MVP. I might just give it to whoever out of Dame and Booker makes it.
I'm with you, man. You mentioned Monty Williams. He was the coach of the bubble, by the way. Just want to give him that shout out right there. Such an amazing job. I think he's just the guy for the job, just bringing him in and starting to turn this thing around. Because the main thing with a franchise like Phoenix, franchises like Sacramento, Minnesota, it's not going to be an overnight change. I mean, just look at those 2 teams we watched earlier today, Denver and Utah. They had some years in there where they were just not very good. You know, they were winning 25, 30 games, and they were kind of in the midst of a transition. They were looking for an identity and everything. But over time, you saw the progression, 30, 35, 40 wins, 45. Now they're title contenders. You know, most people would still say they're kind of dark horse contenders, but they're in a category now that they've established themselves as legitimate teams that command respect. And that's where Phoenix is kind of headed now. And just looking at Booker's progression, you said it before. People said he's not a winning player. He doesn't win games. He doesn't get your team to the next level. But just looking at his game, I mean, everything about his game just shouts out just like alpha, just take over games, closer. We've seen that on multiple occasions in his career already. 70 points for crying out loud. I mean, that was a whole nother ordeal in itself. But I mean, the guy's legit. And I think that experience for him, I want to say it was like 2 years ago when they started that experience at point guard for him, just dominating the ball and just running pick and rolls. I saw a lot of that in the bubble, just kind of taking over the primary ball handling duties and coming off of screens and pulling up in the mid range and getting all the way to the rim. His finishing has improved. I've heard from people, like, I don't know how much truth there is to this, but I even heard that his defense was slightly improved. I didn't watch too many games of the Suns, but
no one did.
right. Until they started like 5-6-0, it's like, oh,
well, yeah. In the bubble, before bubble, no,
right. So all those things together kind of like just make the case for Devin Booker to be rising to a star level. And do you feel as though Devin Booker will eventually be the best player on a team that will win a championship or at least contend for one?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I could see contend for one if they had a guy who was like almost as good. You know, like I don't think I don't think he'll be like a clear number one guy with a bunch of role. Like it won't be like LeBron, where LeBron was kind of dragging teams to the finals after a while.
Yeah.
He won't be on that level, I don't think, ever. Maybe he's gotten better every year. I don't think so though. He can pass really well. I don't think he should be the primary point guard. I think they're better with another guy. But
Agreed.
being able to distribute is big for him. I mean, it makes you can't really double him because he'll find whoever's open.
Exactly.
So I could see it if Phoenix did a tremendous job team building, which they have so far. They've done really well so far. I think their summer was maligned. I don't think they made many good moves. I just think it worked out. Like I don't think they got as much value as they could have gotten for some of their assets, but you can't argue with results, and they've gotten results. I don't know if they'll get there. I think I could see them getting to where Denver is right now, though, to where you're like they're close. Like if something breaks, maybe. I don't think they'll be like a preseason favorite ever if he's the best guy, but I could see a Denver type ceiling.
I see that too, and everybody's just kind of growing together. It's organic growth with Bridges and Ayton along for the ride, and Kelly Oubre. I wish he was in the bubble so we could have put some more people in the basket down there in a poster, but And nevertheless, I mean, Devin Booker and the Suns, hats off to them. Amazing run. But going forward with this team, man, just looking at who else is on the list, there's another name here you alluded to, talking about an asset that the Suns didn't quite get much value on or could have got more value on.
Yep.
Why don't we bring him up? TJ Warren out here. He was on a phenomenal run up until he ran into the buzzsaw that is the Miami Heat and got slowed down a little bit. The Suns gave him some trouble too, ironically. But for TJ Warren, just another guy that's out here, I think he was trying to prove himself. This whole season was just an entire just a proving ground for him. Just looking at trying to prove the haters wrong. You know, I can come out here and just fill the void left from Bogdanovich. Nothing lost. Just come in here seamlessly, just take over that role. He's done an amazing job. So for TJ Warren, the cash considerations argument is ongoing, and it will be until the end of this season. But hats off to him as well. He's done an amazing job. I remember a couple years ago, or maybe it was last season, when he just automatically, out of nowhere, just started hitting like 40% of his threes after just being terrible before. That was the sign. And he just kind of rode that wave right from that point up to where he is now. So TJ Warren, man, another amazing performer in the bubble. And I'm excited to see what he can do against Miami. Can he break out? Or were the seeding games just kind of like a flash in the pan, so to speak?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think Indy has a bit of a better shot against the Heat than a lot of people do. I think those teams are a little closer than public conception. I think people are really high on Miami. I think Miami is good. I don't know if Miami's great. I think Miami has shot unseasonably well. A lot of guys like Jay Crowder is like shooting like his teammate Duncan Robinson. I think Duncan Robinson is shooting is sustainable. I don't know about Jay Crowder or Iguodala. Maybe we'll see. But back to TJ Warren. I think he should have a chip on his shoulder. The trade was a second-round pick, a good second-round pick, and TJ Warren for basically nothing. Like, that should offend you if you're TJ Warren and you're a good NBA scorer. They gave up a pick to get rid of you. He couldn't beat them, but he has played really well. It's just so funny, like, the leading bubble scorers. One is Dame, who was the MVP. The second was a guy we'll get to in a second, James Harden. You're like, okay, those names make sense. Of course, those would be the guys leading the bubble. And then, it's what they do. And then TJ Warren, third at 31 points per game across 6 bubble games. Just phenomenal stuff. You just love to see it. And I like what you said about adding the 3-point shot, because these guys who are like the 2-point shot artists, the mid-range is not dead. There's some room for the mid-range, but you got to be able to hit the 3 as well, I think. I don't think you can just hit the 2. You really got to have both and be that triple level scorer, you know, at 3, in the mid-range, and at the rim if you want to be a truly dangerous offensive player. And he added the 3, and now he is that. So defense, a little optional maybe, but he can score, and that has value.
Exactly, man. I'm going back through the numbers. It was 17-18 where he hit 22% of his 3-point attempts. And I have the shot attempts here right here in front of me. I think 20 of 89. So there's
not great.
Not great. Fairly low sample size. And then last season just shot through the roof. 179 attempts, 42%. That really just kind of like put me in a hole because I was in a fantasy league last year. Somebody picked up TJ Warren. I'm like, well, he'll be okay. You know, he's not going to be incredible out here. and then he just hits 42%, like no big deal. I'm like, nice. That was
Just
you got a
sunk me.
little blessed on that one. I won't lie, but yeah, I mean TJ is just score supreme. He's out here hitting 73% of his shots at the rim this year. 47% from the mid range. I mean, any way you slice it, he's getting buckets out here. So I mean,
in the bubble, do you know what he hit? What percent of his threes he hit in the bubble?
Is he over 50?
Yeah, he is. He shot 57% from the field and 52% from three on 7 attempts per game. Those are, that's clearly, you're not going to do that for a full season, but what a run. What a deserving first team all bubble guy.
For sure. And while we're on Harden, another guy you alluded to, I mean, I feel like we don't need to spend much time on Harden. His game kind of speaks for himself. I've had some discussions on the podcast not too long ago regarding his overall status all time, because I feel like that's where the controversy begins. I think currently just where he is in the league, what he can do on the court is just, there's no question. But when it comes to his overall resume, when it comes to the playoff success or lack thereof, there's it's a little more of a gray area. So, I mean, it's just another opportunity for Harden to go out there and try to make a name for himself when it comes to postseason success. So nothing we haven't seen before from Harden. I just hope he can carry it forward. I'm just curious to see. Even the first round matchup against OKC is going to be interesting. Not having Russell Westbrook there for at least, I would think maybe a few games potentially is going to be rough. But can you see? I can't see him averaging less than 30 for that series. I mean, honestly, just all things considered, he's going to do what he does.
He's going to have to. That's for sure. Without Russ, and Russ tweeted a picture of himself, like an old game pic, maybe a Photoshop, something, and said, "I'm ready." I can't imagine he plays game one with his quad strained or whatever.
Yeah, that was weird. What's that?
I don't know. I mean, Russ played with a dent in his head. So if anybody could play through it, it's Russ. I think that would be wild. Maybe wildly irresponsible. We'll see.
Right.
But I think Harden has to. I mean, Harden does have this kind of black cloud over him, the playoff stuff. And it's kind of, people hit Giannis with the same thing. And it's the unfair part of it is it really takes away from all the greatness you can do over 82. People start to get jaded. People I think are certainly jaded about Harden's greatness. I mean, I'm not even to indict us, but look at our first response, and I agree with you, was to just be like, this is Harden. This is like what Harden does. Let's just move on. He's incredible. Like, he's an incredible scorer. I mean, the free throws will turn some people off. He attempted 11.6 per game in the bubble. He earns a lot of them. He embellishes to add on, but he earns them because he is unguardable. Like, not anybody, if I don't want to slander someone, if Royce O'Neal could draw 11 free throws a game, he would. Like, it's not optional. Yeah. I mean, he earns the shots, but he's such a great offensive player, like truly transcendent. He's gotten better on defense, especially in the post. Like, he's actually formidable down low.
True.
I think we should probably appreciate him a little bit more, but he does need to prove it in the playoffs. And like averaging 30 a game and beating OKC without fully healthy Russ would go a long way toward doing that, I think.
Absolutely. And just looking at Harden's overall kind of body of work, it really is incredible, like you said. I think a lot of people just look at free throws and they're saying, like, well, he just kind of like flies into the paint and just throws his hands up. But like, drawing free throws is a real skill. It's a real art. And it's like you said, if Royce O'Neal or someone like that, a mediocre offensive player could draw 11, they would. Yeah. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? We see that all the time. But there's a certain art to what he does, just kind of putting his arms. He gets you reaching into that cookie jar, that metaphorical cookie jar, by kind of exposing the ball and lifting up right when your hands are right over the ball to kind of draw that contact. And yeah, sure, he kind of like gets the benefit of a doubt every now and then. I think he's kind of earned that. But overall, just balancing that threat from deep with those step backs with his ability to draw fouls, and of course being an amazing passer, like, what an offensive package. There's nothing you can do about that.
And I think the key part of his game, I think people don't appreciate enough, is the strength. I think that's what makes the difference. That's how he can get someone to come into that cookie jar and move through it and at least attempt something that looks like a shot. he's so strong, and it's really on display when he drives. Like, he has broad shoulders. I did a video about this on my YouTube, but like, he'll angle his shoulders in such a way when he drives to where there's just no way around. Like, you can't get to the ball. Like, his mix at his size of like burly strength, but without losing that top end speed, even quote unquote fat Harden, out of shape Harden. People always talk about, he's still fast. Like, he's still quick. He's so good, man. He's so good, so smart, great passer. Yeah, I mean, obviously he takes the shots at Giannis as a Bucks guy. That has me a little like, not my favorite thing to see. I think both guys have certain points there, but I do think he's a little underappreciated, and having a good playoff run would definitely help with that. I wouldn't hate to see it. I think we might look back when all is said and done and go, we probably underappreciated Harden a little bit.
Absolutely. And he's having a profound impact on the next generation of NBA players. Case in point, Luca Doncic.
Ooh.
You can already see it with the vision. You can see it with the step back. He's already taken parts of Harden's game, implemented them into his own with a little unique touch. But you can see how effective it is. Like, he has similar size as Harden. He has kind of like a similar, dare I say, kind of physical attributes when it comes to, that appearance that kind of deceives you. It's like, well, he's going to be a slower player. He's not really explosive. You wouldn't think that about him, but he's very deceptive about how he operates on the court with his handle. Like, that kind of reminds me of Harden, how he's kind of deliberate with his moves. Yeah. He's not lightning fast. He's not going to be like Kemba Walker, just like, zigzagging around the court. But every move is just perfectly timed and executed at exactly just the right moment and space on the floor to give people, whether it's like reaching or jumping or just kind of leaning a little bit to one direction or the other. That whole package is incredible to see. And at 21 years old, the sky's the limit for him. So It's definitely not going to be the first team of anything that he makes in his career. It's just the beginning of many, many for Luca. And I see multiple MVPs in his future because there's pretty much nothing you can do on the court out here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And what bothers me about that comparison is I feel like because of, for whatever reason, like some people who I feel like there's like the analytics and the eye test camps, especially on NBA Twitter. One side really liked Luka before the draft. One side didn't. And I almost feel like there's like people will tear down Harden to build up Luka or vice versa. And it kind of drives me crazy. Like, I agree with you. I think they are very similar players. I think we should enjoy both of them. I think Luka is phenomenal. I think he's as good at Harden as some things. Certainly the outside shot is something Harden has. I mean, Luka looks like such a great shooter, and he'll hit some of them, but not actually terrific numbers. I mean, even in the bubble, after it looked like to me, especially in the Milwaukee game, he was hitting them regularly. He shoots 30% from three even. So not a sharp shooter.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that.
No, you wouldn't. He looks like it. And he has the attempts too. So I think the number will go up. Like I think that will improve. I think he is going to be a very good shooter, but certainly just a phenomenal player. MVPs in the future. I mean, that Dallas roster before one of my worst over-under estimates was I was really low on the Mavericks because I was like, you look at this roster, the rest of the West is so deep, and they have Luka, who
special.
Not like Luka's good, but it was year 2. He got good faster than I thought. Porzingis is good, but he hasn't played in over a year. And the rest of the guys are like, I'm not super high on any of them. Dwight Powell, sure, Maxi Kleber. Yeah. Like I don't know Maxi Kleber that well. They all fit together really well, and of course the reason is Luka in the middle, and they all operate around him. And I don't think his assists are worth more than James Harden's, but he is a very great distributor, and he makes the whole thing operate. So, just tremendous player, and he showed – I mean, that game against Milwaukee, people used that game to indict the Bucks' defense in the bubble, but, they were actually, trapping pretty well. Sometimes the Bucks' defense helps poorly. They don't commit all the way, and then they leave shooters open without pressuring the ball.
Right.
They pressured the ball, man. It just didn't matter. Like, Luka's zipping passes that should be impossible. It was fun to watch, even though the Bucks got cooked. The guy is tremendous.
He really is. I think the next step for his evolution would be those percentages we're talking about. That's what Booker had to work on. That's what a lot of the young guys have to work on. Because even if they come into the league and by the raw numbers, they're incredible, they're very good. There's still something about finding really knowing exactly when to attack, like when to shoot, when to drive. Because I was looking at Booker's numbers earlier. I think his first few years he was in the low 40s for field goal percentage. So it was a little iffy. I think he was still in kind of like the low to mid 30s free 3-point percentage. Trae Young, the same thing. You look at Trae Young and it's like, man, this dude's a knockdown shooter, a marksman. Like, no, not really.
Not by the numbers.
No, I think he's similar to Luca in percentage from three, if I'm not mistaken. Even though his attempts are, incredibly deep, they're incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But with these guys, that's something we're going to see. Donovan Mitchell is another guy. You see the percentages. It's like, but we got to take it easy on these guys. And that's something I've seen about on NBA Twitter. And I'd love for you to speak on this. It's kind of, we see these young guys, we get our expectations too high sometimes because we kind of think about what they could be instead of just trying to measure their performance with their age, saying like, well, he's 21, he's 22, he's a borderline all-NBA player. Well, let's judge them accordingly based on where they are in their career and not where their ceiling is. We talk all the time about the ceiling and potential, but let's appreciate what they bring to the table for now and just kind of get to the rest as we get down the road.
I definitely agree. I think it's kind of crazy how high the bar is. Like, just whenever a guy comes in the league now, we just expect him to come in the league and be at this basically near their peak level, and that's just not how it works. I mean, we just talked about Booker and Harden and guys who have added so much to their games as they've developed both mentally and physically. Like, year one Harden was not doing any of this stuff, man. He was good. He was a good player in OKC, but he was not this kind of player. Like, it's a process. And some guys like LeBron are going to come in and light the league on fire. But that should not be the norm. That's great when that happens. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But, like, I was low on the Pelicans, too, because I was like, Zion might be awesome. I mean, with the health stuff aside and all that, but it's year one. Like, let him figure out the game. And they were really good in the regular season, the first regular season with him. In the bubble, it didn't work as well, and he's not there on defense yet. But, like, people are kind of tearing him down for that. And noting it is not tearing him down, but, like, he's not going to always be a bad defender. He has the tools to be a good defender. It's year one, and he missed a lot of the year. It's such an adjustment to play in this league. I mean, there's no league like it in terms of, like, the worst guy on the court at any time would dominate in pretty much any other league. I mean, you see guys wash out of the NBA and put up 45 a night in China, and like, that's a good league. Like, there's good leagues all over. I mean, EuroLeague, you're not going to wash out and dominate EuroLeague. You might be a good player, but
sure,
it's just like the bar is so high. And I think, we absolutely need to keep that in mind. Look at a guy like RJ Barrett, who he had bad percentages year one. That Knicks team was a train wreck. Like, context is important. Development is important. No spacing. And he had some nice assists, but it's a process. So I agree with you entirely. Sometimes we rule out these guys year one. And, he's just bad. Well, let's see. Let's look at what he's doing, not just the numbers. Let's see what he does on the court and what he's capable of now, and what do we think he could develop into. There's so much nuance that goes into these conversations, that should go into these conversations.
True. I mean, context is everything. Yep. And we have to consider what a player is doing with the players they have around them, the system that's in place. I mean, a lot of these guys, they do the best they can what they're given. I mean, not everybody has a magical environment where they can just kind of operate at will. Sometimes there's limitations put in place. And, we're talking about Luca here. Let's give a shout out to his teammate, by the way. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis down there in Dallas, that looks to be a great match with Luca. That's doing some great things. And, before we came on the air, we were just talking about how he kind of snuck up on us. His numbers you didn't feel like, he was out there dominating. Maybe he's just so smooth. Maybe he's just so skilled that we don't realize that, he dropped 35 and 12 boards or whatever the case may be. I did a little sample here on Basketball Reference from his last 6 games. He played about 36 minutes a night, 38% from 3, 7 attempts per game. He averaged 30 points, 9.5 boards, and he even threw in a block and a half for good measure. So looking at the numbers, looking at how the Mavericks performed overall with him on the court, very deserving of a second team showing here, appearance on the bubble team. So with Porzingis, I'm just glad he's healthy and he's back out here playing his game. It took a little bit for him and Luca to find that balance. because I think going back to the regular season before the stoppage, I think it was like Luca had a stretch. He was dominant. He got hurt. Porzingis comes in. He's dominant. But it wasn't until like this bubble experience where both players got on the same page and they dominated together. That's a huge step for Dallas, and it really goes to show you that they have a real future. Maybe not in this playoff run, but down the line, like, I mean, the sky's the limit for them. Hats off to the Dallas front office for going and getting a guy that one team did not really value the same way, didn't put the pieces in place around him like they should be. So I'm just glad he's flourishing out here. 'Cause it's about time that he's gone back out there and does what he does best.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those numbers are great. One thing I think is funny, he scores a little bit more than Luca per game in the bubble, which is kind of wild. He shoots better from three on almost the exact same attempts, but I love that Luca out-rebounds him by a little bit. Like, that just shows that Luca gets involved in the interior, and Kristaps certainly will fade out a little bit away from the rim on both ends. But I think the number I liked best that you said there was his minutes. I mean, this was a guy who big durability questions, and he does miss 2 games in the bubble, in fairness, but 36 minutes a night, that's a lot of minutes for any big guy, much less one who, didn't play for the better part of 2 years before this season. It's nice to see him be able to handle those big stretches of minutes and be very productive in them. That's great for Dallas's future. I mean, they had to give up a couple first-round picks, young guys who people were high on, who maybe too high on. We'll see. It's hard to play on the Knicks. We've already covered this, but it seems like they got a really good return for that investment. Anytime you can pair 2 young stars together, and I think Luka is a brighter star, but Porzingis still very much a star, at least to some degree, or at least close to it. You kind of have to do it. I mean, how many times do we see a guy like Anthony Davis in New Orleans where you go, he's going to leave because they never won? Mavericks are already winning. I mean, it's year for 2 for Luka, and they have infrastructure. That's huge for them.
They didn't waste any time. Like, they got right to work. Because they know what they have. Like, they got Luca, they got Porzingis. It's like, man, we have a real opportunity. Let's not screw around and get these guys pissed off or anything. Let's go out there and make it happen. And I'm looking at some more numbers for Porzingis. And another thing I've kind of realized is that he has kind of accepted who he is as a player when it comes to just the way he plays. So a lot of us, I was one of them, pretty frustrated with just how he just kind of shied away from the paint. He just kind of settled for a lot of jumpers and all this other stuff. I'm just like, man, this guy's 7'3". Like, why isn't he more aggressive, or why isn't he more physical? But you look at what he's doing out here. 39% of his shot attempts come from 3. 35% come from the mid-range. Only 26% of his shot attempts come at the rim, which is a pretty low percentile. I think it's about the 18th percentile on cleaning the glass. He was even lower last year, or the last year he played, at 18% at the rim. So this is a guy that kind of scoffs at the traditional view of a big man, especially someone that's 7'3" with long arms and all these other tools. He kind of operates more in the mid-range to 3-point range, and that allows someone like Dwight Powell, which I really wish he was playing right now. It's a shame that he suffered the injury he did, or Maxi Kleber, someone like that to kind of handle the dirty work in a sense. While Porzingis says, like, I'm going to, maybe take a couple dribbles, back him in a little bit, shoot the fade, shoot the 3, pick and pop. It works with Luka. It works with these other guys because there's a lot of other guys on the roster that can assume those down and dirty duties, like in the paint, like get in there and drive and rebound and this other stuff. So I think that the fact he's accepted who he is as a player and the team has built the roster to accommodate that, it says a lot about him and his progress as a player. I just love to see that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I still think you could look for a little bit more down low. I still think that percentage is a little low, but it is good. I mean, he's finding ways to contribute a lot even without doing that. And with this Mavericks team, I mean, maybe there's some value in, when he interacts with Luka, a lot of the times he gets the hell out of Luka's way. So Luka has a clean lane to the basket. There's no big guy on his team cutting too. Luka's got a lot of space to operate in. So whatever's happening, it seems to be working right now. Like you alluded to it, don't think they're going to have great success in the playoffs this year. Quite the first-round matchup for them, but certainly a bright future.
Absolutely. And as we progress forward in the second team, these guys are arriving. They're in the process. We're talking about all these guys that are kind of on their way. But the established guys, I mean, they're not going anywhere. Kawhi's not going anywhere, certainly anytime soon. As we saw, as we're probably going to see tonight, against the Mavericks. I mean, this guy's on a mission once again, and I'm sure he's going to be in the running for, another award possibly in the postseason if things kind of break well for the Clippers. And I'm looking at his numbers, and Kawhi is another one of those players. Like, he's not just going to jump off the screen at you. Like, I think Paul George, when he's lighting it up for 30 or 40 points. Donovan Mitchell, it. Like, they're in there hanging in the air for 3 seconds and, going up and under for a dunk and all these other explosive, just crazy plays. Kawhi, by nature, just kind of quiet, goes about his business, gets his mid-range in there, gets a nice little dunk or two in there somewhere along the line, takes very good three-point attempts off the dribble, very good looks. Like, it's just kind of, goes about his business. Like, Kawhi is Kawhi.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the term is thrown around a lot, but it's fitting. Like, he's just a machine. And we don't say that in a way to, like, talk about maybe, like, his demeanor on the court, because we say that all the time about him, but just the way he just operates so efficiently and just, like, consistently. It's amazing to see that. And I think in the all-time rankings, he continues to rise, and he's doing it in a different way. Like, some players like Harden, it's about their raw numbers. It's about where they are on the leaderboards. With Kawhi, it's like, well, he hasn't hit 10,000 points in his career. Incredible. I mean, he's been in the league for, like 8 or 9 years at this point, and he hasn't hit 10,000 points. But he has the Finals MVPs. He has the championships. Yeah. He has this other stuff. So, I mean, Kawhi's doing it in a different way, but he's still one of the dominant forces in basketball. No question about it.
Yeah, he is, and he's just relentless. It's almost like when the tide comes in. Like, he just, like, you go back on your offensive possession, and on the trip back down the floor every single time, like the tide, he just comes back. He just keeps doing his thing every single possession. It's exhausting if you root for a team he's playing in the playoffs, because you just know, like, there's no quit in him. Like, he grew up emulating MJ and Kobe, and you can see it in his game. Like, he's not as loud as those guys. He's not going to talk as much trash. Certainly is not as much as MJ. But it's just like the play style is very much like he'll just go down and just rip your heart out possession after possession. But I think it's a good point. His shot selection, guy drained 48% of his threes in the bubble games. Not bad. Pretty hard to beat him when he's doing that, although they actually lost most of the games he played. They were not trying very hard to they were 3-3 in his 6 games, but they were not trying very hard. But yeah, I mean, this guy this year has a shot to become the first player, and I can't imagine anyone else will do it anytime soon, to have 3 Finals MVPs on 3 different teams. I guess LeBron also in the race to do that, but True. LeBron has played, like, I don't even know how many more minutes than Kawhi. Like, in such a short peak, he could, like, that would be a crazy run for him. And he's just such an impressive player.
The thing about Kawhi, and this really is just, it kind of explains a little bit why he doesn't have more points, like more, he's not higher up these leaderboards, is because his minutes have been so, like, so moderate compared to some of these other guys. Like, talking about LeBron's minutes, he plays 35 plus minutes a game pretty much every season. Kawhi's the inverse. He's played, I think his career high in minutes was 34, and that was last year. So, his rookie season, he was at 23. He gets to 30, and he hovers between 31 and 33 pretty much every season. Like, that's Kawhi. He doesn't go out there and just, he's not about volume. He's just about efficiency. Just in the time he's got, just making the most of it. And that's what makes him who he is. In these bubble games, it's a perfect environment for him to go out there and get his feet wet. Don't need to play a ton of minutes. I'm not going to play a ton of games. You just kind of get back into a rhythm. And when the playoffs hit, I mean, he's locked and loaded. You don't have to worry about that with him. We had a clip that was trending on Twitter just a few minutes ago before we came on the air. He's walking to Sarita.
The iPad.
He's on the iPad. It's on the home screen. Doesn't do anything. He's zoned in. He's like, I don't see the cameras.
I don't want to talk to anyone.
Exactly. Like, what I do? I mean, I have New Balance commercials where I don't say anything. Like, this is who I am. So, I mean, respect for Kawhi. He's so funny even when he's not trying to be.
Yeah, I like that he leans into it. I think it would be easy to be a little self-conscious. I mean, they made fun of his laugh, right? I mean, it became like this trending thing, and he's in a place where he's got enough prominence, enough cachet built up. Like, he could not do anything if he wanted to. He could not do commercials, just not care. I think he's kind of leaned into it a bit. I hope he thinks it's a little bit funny. And yeah, I like that. I like that he kind of leans into being the unusual superstar. I mean, people say that about a lot of guys like Steph and Giannis, but Kawhi is a whole different level, man. Like, and I like it. I think it's good for the league to have different personalities be that good. I think it's fun. It's a fun mix.
I like that, man. I like the way you said that. The different personalities, like, not everyone's going to be Joel Embiid. Not everybody's going to trash talk the same way. Not everybody's going to get in people's faces the same way. Some people are just kind of dominate behind the scenes, and it doesn't matter how you get it done as long as you get it done. Like, that's why they're there. That's the object of the game. And another personality. This is your guy right here. So I definitely want to give you some time to kind of go over this and how he's been playing. But Giannis, the Greek freak, man, like, he's out here getting it done. Nothing has changed about him from last year to this year. He's even more dominant. You know the numbers. You've studied him more than pretty much almost anyone out there. Like, he's the modern day Shaq. His efficiency numbers are insane. A crazy amount of dunks. He's out there, and when he gets to a certain area of the floor, he can't be stopped. He's a runaway train. And the evolution for him was his shooting. People wanted to see him hit more shots in the mid-range. We wanted to see more threes. And, I mean, it's nothing drastic, but he has made improvements. Looking at his three-point numbers, 5% improvement over last season at 31%. In the mid-range, I mean, his long mid-range is improved. He's at 42% over 36 from last year. So we're not going to see any drastic changes. I don't think Giannis is ever going to be a 38% shooter from three. But what he has done is just kind of added enough to his game to keep the defense honest. And that's going to make all the difference for Milwaukee when it comes to maybe an inevitable matchup with Toronto, like a rematch. Like, that's huge. And I think that the seeding games were just more points on that plot chart, man. Like, this guy's phenomenal. He's once a generation player.
The funny thing about Giannis is this happens all the time to, like, myself. I host my podcast co-host. His name is Rohan Kadi, and we always, it feels like every single game, if we do a pod right after a game, we kind of double, like, what did Giannis have? It seemed like such a typical game. And wait, he had 30, 12, and 5 assists on 80% shooting. Like, how is that even possible? I think some things with Giannis this year that have really impressed me. The three-point shot is coming along. It was really good in the bubble, then it tailed off hard. He ended up shooting just 27% from deep in the bubble game, so not great, more like his percentage last year, but again, a small sample size. And he started off looking good. It tailed off, unfortunately. But the fact that his efficiency numbers are still so high, despite him shooting the three more and not being effective at making it, really speaks to how dominant he is down low. I mean, like you said, he dunks all the time. He gets to the rim. He draws fouls. That's the thing. Honestly, his free throws might be more important than his three-point. He's still not good enough there. He still needs to improve there. It's very streaky, just like his three-point shot. It's not like, he's not making 3.1 or whatever out of every 10 threes. He'll be really hot and then really cold for a while, vice versa. So same thing there. He just needs to iron it out and become more consistent. But you're picking nits with a player this good. I mean, his per-game averages for a guy who plays just over 30 minutes a game are insane. This year he's led the league in per 36 scoring, even more than Harden per minute, which is wild. We know how good Harden is. The guy's just dominant. He just dominates all the time, and he's good enough right now to be the best player on a title team. He's just going to need some help. He's going to need guys like Chris Middleton to step up. Hopefully they can. That's a whole different podcast, but it's good to appreciate Giannis because this guy is like new age Shaq, man. Just if he's down low, if he gets to that point, it becomes really hard to stop him unless you have 1, 2, maybe even 3 guys between him and the rim. You need that at all times, or it's 2 points, man.
But the modern day Shaq comparisons, I mean, it comes right down to the free throw shooting. Like, I mean, I'm looking at this season, he dropped off to he's in the low 60s now. Looking at that, I mean, I think he's trying too hard to be Shaq. he needs to hold on that. But yeah, overall, I mean, Giannis is just a guy that just a testament to just hard work and determination. Because I mean, I'm sure you've seen this just watching the Bucks enough. Such a fiery competitor out there. I mean, Giannis wants to lose probably like I mean he wants to win more than pretty much anybody you're going to see out there. Just an incredible just competitor. Embiid should take notes, honestly. Just seeing Embiid, I'm out here taking shots now, but you see Embiid and he talks all this talk, but it kind of wavers sometimes whether he's really engaged. Not with Giannis. Like, I mean, he's running down your throat every possession. He's going for the jugular. If he loses, it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of effort. Absolutely. I mean, it's been reported that he needs to make changes to his jump shot and his free throw. Like, yeah, I mean, that's fair. But at the end of the day, I want a guy that competes, and he's going to get that done. So for Giannis and that team, I give a lot of credit to him. I give a lot of credit to that front office because you literally can't build a better team around a guy with that skill set. And again, back to the Sixers, Ben Simmons. I mean, they should take notes. I mean, these guys really need to watch the Bucks front office. They're doing great things out there.
Yeah, they are. And I think I'm glad, just to circle back a little bit here, you mentioned Giannis's long mid-range shooting. He has really worked and developed his fadeaway jumper, which is not something people notice a lot. He doesn't pull it out all the time, but it's become pretty – you don't want to say automatic and nothing – if he had any sort of jump shot that's automatic, I mean, league over. He's probably averaging 40 a game. Maybe we'll get there. He gets better every year. It's insane. But that fadeaway, if he gets especially a smaller player, but even some of the bigger guys – because he's so athletic, he's so springy, and his arms are so long, it's pretty much unblockable when he's fading away and up. Like, how could you possibly get high enough? He's gotten pretty comfortable and pretty good at making those. So that's been exciting. That's another thing. Everyone looks for the three with Giannis, but incremental steps like that, they all help. They all help.
Definitely, man. And so we're getting to the tail end of this conversation, and I definitely want to save some room for Dame. We'll get to him in a moment. But two other players on the second team, just real quick, going through what they've done here in the bubble, pretty phenomenal. I mean, I'm looking at Michael Porter Jr. and Karis Levert. So for Michael Porter Jr., I mean, we just got to see him play a few hours ago. And he had his own performance here today, and everything about his game is just tantalizing. It's just so inviting when it comes to like what this guy can be. And for Denver, it took a little bit for them to kind of reap the benefits of taking a chance on him in the draft. But, I mean, it's really paid off. And I'm looking at those 7 games that he played in the bubble so far, and 22 points a game, 42% from 3. So he creates a mismatch in almost every scenario, just looking at his size and shooting ability, ball handling. Pretty incredible to add him to a core of Murray and Jokic. If he can just show up that defense, we saw that today again. I mean, he just had to be just yanked from the game at certain occasions because he just hits the screen and just stops in his tracks. But overall, I mean, the skill set of Michael Porter Jr., we can see why he was in conversations for the number 1 pick, because that package, like offensively with the size, incredible. Like it reminds me of, It's not Giannis, right? Like, he's not going to beat you with brute force, but he uses his skills in a way that just create a mismatch with the shooting, with the dribbling. So love what I'm seeing from his game, and I just really hope that this playoff run will be a wake-up call to him that if he can become competent on defense, he will see all the minutes he can ever want, and he will be part of an amazing core for years to come. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, tantalizing. And in a vacuum, he's tantalizing, what he can do at his size. And, like, to put his efficiency in context, the guy played 7 minutes, or 7 games, not 7 minutes. He might have played 7 minutes across the whole rest of the regular season. In the bubble, he plays 7 games and 33 minutes a game, so pretty good. 22 points per game, 55 from the field, 42 from 3, 93 from the free throw line. The guy had a 50-40-90. In big minutes across almost all of Denver's games. I mean, for his size, like for the way he's getting some of those shots, it's super impressive on its own. And then you look at in the context of Denver's team, what's the one thing they didn't have was a big wing who could create shots or hit knockdown threes. They have never had that. I mean, they have some smaller guys who are good, like Will Barton, your Jamal Murray's, Gary Harris before he was hurt and fell off a cliff this year. And they have some good big guys, but it's like Mason Plumlee, Paul Millsap, Jeremy Grant. They're not breaking down defenses. They can hit some shots, but they're not going to size you up. They're not going to create plays on offense. Porter can, and it's really interesting to see like the balance this playoff run in particular, how much they play him with his defense concerns, with some of his conditioning looks good, his injury concerns. Obviously, that was the real reason he fell in the draft. I don't know. It's a really hard thing to manage for Michael Malone, who creepily there's some sneaky expectations there, but he is tantalizing is a very good word. The thought of him thriving in Denver, it's tantalizing. That's a really good team without him. With him, their ceiling is a lot higher if he can survive in that defensive end.
It changes the whole trajectory of that team. They go from maybe like a borderline contender to like legit contender just in a heartbeat. And I wish we could spend more time on him, but I mean, we're talking about tantalizing players. How about Karis Levert? He gave us some signs last year, had a great playoff run, did some amazing things for Brooklyn on that first round series. And he comes out here this year and it's been pretty impressive. And I mean, he continues to develop as a creator, as a shooter, came up to about 36% this season, 37%. He's in the mid range. So still not great there, but just overall, like the whole skill set is pretty incredible. And they re-signed him to a new deal, I believe, last year. It made a lot of sense because you can see what he could do on the floor, and they bet on him being healthy. And hopefully that continues to be the case. But with Levert, it's like, hey, it's another guy. Not sure how long he's going to be in Brooklyn. I feel like he's going to be shipped out at some point because with him and Kyrie and Katie, I don't see how that's going to work. But, I mean, whether he's a trade chip, whether he's a third banana to those guys, like, Levert is such a fun guy to watch. Like, it's almost like N1 mixtape sometimes. He's just going to break something out of the bag you never saw coming.
Yeah, no, he is. He's a dynamic playmaker. The outside shot still wishy-washy. It wasn't really falling for him in the bubble, but still some great performances. He averages 25 points a game and dishes almost 7 assists a game, I believe. Yes. And also 5 rebounds a game. Some of the columns get confusing. I'm getting old. Right. But it's almost too bad that, you mentioned it, right? And it's obvious. He is their premier trade chip. We don't know if Brooklyn will deal him. There's been so much news about, not news, but smoke about Brad Beal or whoever else might be available. Sure. It's almost a disservice, man. This guy is incredible. Like, he's balling out right now. He had a very good season, very, very good bubble. I would like to see them give it a shot with him, but either way, I hope that we can enjoy if he has some saucy performance in this playoff run. Probably not a long one against Toronto, but again, maybe he has a big night. I just hope we can – this whole theme of this podcast is like appreciating these players. I hope we can appreciate that and not just go, that makes it this much easier for them to get Brad Beal or whoever else. Like, let's do that the next day. Let's do that, after the playoffs are over. For now, let's just enjoy some basketball, man. Let's watch Karis Levert cook somebody.
Appreciate it, man. We got to enjoy the moment. Mm-hmm. And speaking of enjoying the moment, this is where we're going to end our talk tonight. Damian Lillard, I mean, what a guy. Doesn't get enough credit for just being the pillar of a franchise for, just so many years now. I think we're going on like 9 years that he's been a part of this franchise, 8 or 9 years. And I'm looking at his numbers, consistency. You're getting 90 or close to 90% from the free throw line every year. You're getting, I mean, it's going up, but you were getting, mid to upper 30s in 3-point percentage. This season hit 90. That's going to be there. The assist, like I was looking at his assist numbers, I was pretty surprised. I mean, now I think he's up to like 7 assists per game or 8 assists. So, I mean, this is a guy that you can't trap every possession. You can't just hope to take the ball out of his hands and just get bailed out of possessions. Like, that's not a thing anymore. And just being somebody that the whole team can rally behind. We go back to leaders. Somebody that inspires people. Like, I've been in a lot of job interviews and people ask me this question all the time. Like, what is a leader to you? And for me, it's always been somebody that inspires other people to follow their movement, what they're doing, whether it's on the court or the workplace or whatever. It's not a boss. That's different from a boss. That's different from a manager. Like, a leader it goes beyond that. Mm-hmm. And I think Dame is the perfect example of a leader. And I mean, it doesn't hurt that your leader can go out there and hit dagger after dagger in playoff scenarios and bubble games, whatever the case is, and drop 61. Like basketball gods are looking upon him. And, sometimes you hit the back of the rim, that thing would just fly up 10 feet and sink in. Sometimes it's your night, man. It's how it goes sometimes.
It's a lot of nights are his night based on some of the shots he's hit, man. An incredible shot maker, one of the most dynamic players in our league. I think he's been very good for a while, like you said. I think he really took that leap from like Harden levels of volume 3-point shooting, where like Harden will take a ton and make a good amount, like high 30s, just under 40, where that's like the second highest tier you can be to me as a 3-point shooter. If you can take and make a lot at a high volume, high degree of difficulty. If you're close to 40 on those shots, that's really good. He now has gone to the net. He's on the Steph level now. He's like in the 40s on these incredible pull-up threes from anywhere at any location. A guy who, like, you wouldn't call him guardable before this, but at this point, I don't know how you do it. Like anywhere he's out on the floor. Half court. That's where you start.
Yeah.
That's the start. It's like what Steph's 2016 shot against OKC. Dame is on that level now of like, you need to respect him at the logo, maybe even a little before, like you said. And he is a culture setter. Like you talked about leadership. I love how Zach Lowe goes out of his way to bring this up. But like when they got swept by the Pelicans, that was ugly. I mean, that was the kind of series that could bust up a team. Like a team who, they haven't won titles together. They haven't gone to the finals. At that point, hadn't even made the conference finals together with no clear path to add a bunch of players. I mean, then like Nurkic comes on and everything else, but like that can break up teams.
Seriously.
Not the Blazers, not Dame's team. Like he sets that culture and they're bulletproof. Like they've gotten through so much that I think would have broken a lot of other teams. I hope that he wins a ring there someday. I think it would be a tremendous story, a tremendous pinnacle for him. Even if he doesn't, if he stays, if he goes, whatever. I'm so glad that he's there playing the way he's playing. They're finding success. Such a great team, such a great story, such a great guy for the league to have as one of the great players. I can't get enough Dame. People have different takes on if he's corny, the music, whatever. I don't care. I'll take all of it. I enjoy all of it. If it's Dame time all the time, I'm fine with that.
I mean, let's give some credit to the fact that Damian Lillard dropped 60 points in that game. He's been dropping like 30 plus throughout the bubble. And to cap it off, he drops 3 tracks on SoundCloud, like right after that, like just to kind of drive home the point. He's like live from the bubble. Like, here we go. Like I just saw it drop. I think the day after that game where he matched his career high, I'm just like, who else can go out there and just produce quality music and drop 60 on your head at the same time? Like
nobody else has the range.
No, they just can't do it like Dame, man. But I think that brings us to the end of our conversation, man. The bubble team is something I hope we don't ever see again. I hope we don't have to do this bubble thing again. But all things considered, these guys have made this experience incredible. Under the circumstances, I'm very happy that these guys showed up the way they did. They came off little preparation, unusual circumstances, and displayed their games at the highest level, especially with Damian Lillard. So fantastic conversation, man. Great to have you on the pod and just kind of give your perspective on these guys. Before you head out, you want to let the listeners know where they can find you on Twitter, what you got going on the podcast, what's new with the gyro step, man.
Yeah, on Twitter at Tywindish, just my name, TIWINDISCH. That's me on pretty much all social platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Patreon, etc. for NBA stuff I do there. But the podcast, the Euro Step, we are going to do post-game every playoff game. We're at least hoping to. Bucks got a lot of day games, especially in this first round, but I think we're going to figure it out. So we're going to break them all down after the game, at least either the night of or the next day probably, and just cover every second because, man, Milwaukee hasn't gotten a lot of championship contending runs in the last few decades in my lifetime. So we're gonna savor every game. We're gonna enjoy and think about and contemplate and every other synonym you can think of, every single game, every single great Giannis moment. So yeah, we'll be working, man. We'll be chronicling the whole thing.
Fantastic. Can't wait to follow that coverage, man. It's going to be a fantastic playoff run for Milwaukee if Giannis has anything to say about it, at least.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Biz Casual Basketball again. We're over at BC Basketball 2 at Twitter and Instagram, bcbasketball.info online if you want to check out our website and blog posts and things like that. We'll be back here before you guys know it with more playoff coverage live from the bubble. We're just getting started over here. Until then, enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Enjoy these games, and we'll see you back on the pod here real soon.